I carried my 8-month-old son across the minefields for 27 hours. Every step we took could have been our last. The Korean Demilitarized Zone, the DMZ, is 4 kilometers of the deadliest land on Earth. 2 million landmines, watchtowers. Every 500 meters, snipers positioned on both sides. No one has ever crossed the DMZ and survived. That's what everyone thinks. Crossing the DMZ is suicide. For most people, that's true. But I wasn't most people. For 3 years, I had been one of those snipers. I guarded that border. I memorized every patrol pattern, knew the location of every sensor, and had mapped every blind spot. And when the North Korean regime came to execute my 8-month-old son and me, I used all that knowledge to cross to the other side. My name is Kim Tae-jun. I served as a soldier in the North Korean DMZ for 3 years and defected on August 23rd, 2020. This is the story of how my son and I survived 27 hellish hours. I want to share 3 things. First, why a loyal soldier risked his life for his baby. Second, what actually happened during those 27 hours when no one could survive. And third, what I learned about the price of freedom and how it changed my life forever. But to understand why I made that choice, you need to know who I was before that night. It was December 2019. I was 26, serving my 3rd year at Watchtower 347 in the DMZ near Goseong. I was not a deserter. I was not a traitor. I was a model soldier. Every morning, I spent 30 minutes checking seismic sensors. Every night, I memorized patrol patterns. I knew every inch of those 4 kilometers. I could distinguish animal sounds from human movements from 200 meters away. That was my life. That was my identity. But there was something more important than duty, my son, Min-jun. I first held him in a small room at Wonsan Military Hospital. The walls were peeling green paint, and there was only one window. My hands shook so badly that I feared dropping him. He weighed barely 8 kilograms, tiny enough to fit perfectly in my hands. And I thought, how can I protect something this fragile? How can a life so small exist in such a cruel world? My chest tightened. My eyes burned, but I blinked quickly. Soldiers do not cry. The doctor told me he was a strong boy he takes after his father. I could only nod. I couldn't trust my voice. But there was a problem. My wife, Soyeon, was bleeding heavily. The doctor said she needed a transfusion. But the hospital didn't have enough blood. We had to wait. The injured soldiers took priority. Soyeon couldn't wait. 6 hours after giving birth, she closed her eyes and never opened them again. She was only 24. In a single day, I became a father and a single dad. It was just Minjin and me. In North Korea, a soldier with a motherless baby is a problem. No daycare, no parental leave. Only duty. For 8 months, I had been walking a tightrope at night, sleeping 3 hours, caring for Minjin by day. My colleagues helped when they could, sharing food and holding him when I was on duty, but I knew this couldn't last forever. By August 2020, things changed. Supplies began to shrink. Rations were halved. Minjin was growing. He needed more formula, more food. There was none. At 2 a.m., the supply warehouse was lit only by my flashlight. I opened a box of formula, taking out exactly 2 cans. I hid them inside my jacket. And I thought, this is not wrong. My son needs to eat. The state won't notice 2 cans. Just 2. My hands were sweaty. My heart pounded. What if someone heard? I whispered to myself over and over for Minjin. For Minjin. But someone saw me. Park Jung. He had been following me. He had noticed inventory discrepancies for weeks. I was accused of being a thief, a traitor to the state. I told him my son is hungry. I only took 2 cans. He cut me off. Your son is the problem. You're putting family above the state. That's betrayal. Then he said something that froze my blood in North Korea. A traitor must be punished for 3 generations. That includes your son. For those unfamiliar, North Korea practices guilt by association. If you commit a crime against the state, your entire family is punished. Parents, siblings, children. 3 generations. Sent to labor camps or executed. Minjin was 8 months old. He couldn't walk or speak, but to the state. He was guilty simply because he was my son. That night, Minjin slept on my chest, and I had to make a decision. It was 3A. and everyone else was asleep. I stared at the ceiling, counting the cracks, 47 of them. I had counted them thousands of times before. If I surrender, we both die. If I flee and fail, we both die. If I flee and succeed, maybe we survive. I stroked his tiny head, feeling his warm breath on my chest. He was too small, too pure. I whispered softly, Minjin. It's not your fault. It's not your fault you were born in the wrong place, or to the wrong father. I made a decision. I would not let the state kill my son because of my mistakes. If we were to die, we would die fighting for freedom. We had 48 hours before they could officially arrest me. 48 hours to plan the impossible freedom. But there was a problem. I knew the DMZ, but I had never crossed it with an 8-month-old baby. No one had. No one survives to tell the tale. 48 hours, that was my limit. Park Jung said he would submit the official report on Monday. It was Friday afternoon. 2 nights, Saturday and Sunday, were my only chance. I spent the time preparing. Every move had to look normal. No suspicion could arise. In my tiny 3x3-meter room in the barracks, with a 2-level bunk bed, a drawer, and a photo of Soyon on the wall, I checked my military backpack. I removed anything unnecessary, leaving only essentials, 1 water bottle, 3 formula packets, compressed diapers, a small flashlight, my combat knife, and my hand-drawn map of the DMZ. Every item in the backpack could mean life or death. Water or formula, extra clothes or food, too heavy, and I couldn't run too light and we'd starve. My hands moved, arranging and rearranging my anxiety. Rising, but I couldn't stop. Jinho, who shared the same barracks, saw me preparing and asked, "Special mission?" I lied, "Night exercise." "Colonel's orders." He nodded, suspicious of nothing. But physical preparation was only half the battle. The other half was mental. I had to remember 3 years of patrols, every detail. The DMZ isn't just a minefield, it's a system. 4 layers of defense. The first layer, mines. 2 million placed in precise patterns. But there were safe paths, tiny maintenance gaps. I knew them all. The second layer, electrified fences, 3 meters high, connected to alarms. But every night, the system turns off for 15 minutes for maintenance exactly at 2 a.m. The third layer, seismic and heat sensors. They detect movement and body heat. But there are blind spots, rocky terrain that disrupts signals. I mapped them all. The fourth layer, snipers in watchtowers, every 500 meters. They work 4-hour shifts. At 2 a.m. and 6 a.m., the guards change, creating 3 to 5 minutes of confusion. My plan was simple in theory, but impossible in execution. Leave at 1:45 a.m., use the maintenance path to cross the first minefield, reach the fence. Just as the power cuts at 2 a.m., cut through it. Use blind spots to cross the sensor zone and arrive on the other side before 6 a.m. at dawn. 4 hours, 4 kilometers, with an 8-month-old baby. It was 1:30 a.m. on Sunday, moonless night. The temperature was -2 degrees. Every breath I took formed clouds in the cold air. I strapped the backpack to my chest and tucked Minjin inside my uniform, close to my heart. I wrapped him in 3 layers of clothing to shield him from the cold, leaving only his nose exposed so he could breathe. I turned back one last time, the place I had called home for 3 years. I thought, if this goes wrong, I'll never see it again. Maybe that's for the best. I swallowed hard. My mouth was so dry I couldn't even produce saliva. My legs wanted to run. My arms wanted to protect Minjin, and my mind kept saying, "You can still turn back. You can still give up." I whispered to Minjin, "I'm sorry you have to go through this. If there is a God, protect us. If there isn't, then it's just us." At 1:45 a.m., I crossed the boundary fence. Officially, I was now a deserter. There was no turning back. The first 500 meters were easy, too easy, and that scared me. Nothing easy lasts long. At 1:52 a.m., I reached the edge of the first minefield. This was where the real challenge began. The field was empty, no trees, no rocks, just low grass. The first electrified fence was 200 meters ahead, and beneath my feet lay invisible death. I knelt down, drew my knife, and began crawling. Every meter, I stabbed the knife into the ground at a 45-degree angle. If it hit metal, it was a mine. If it hit only soil, it was safe. Meter by meter, knife and soil, knife and soil. My mind raced. What if I missed a mine? What if the pattern changed? What if they had deployed a new type I didn't know about? The possibilities looped endlessly. I was sweating in -2 degrees. Sweat stung my eyes, but I couldn't wipe it away. My hands were busy holding the knife and keeping Minjun close. The only sound was my own breathing, short, fast, uncontrollable. After crawling 80 meters, with 120 meters left, Minjun stirred. I felt that he was waking up. I gently pressed my hand on his back, a gesture I always used to calm him. But this time, it didn't work. His body tensed the tension just before a baby cries. I had 3 options. Let him cry, risking the patrol hearing him. Cover his mouth, risking suffocation. Feed him formula, losing precious time and limited resources. I chose the third. I was in the middle of the minefield, 80 meters in, with 120 meters to go. Vulnerable, kneeling, I slowly sat back on my heels. I pulled a formula packet from my pocket, mixed it with water from my bottle, and shook it carefully. The liquid made a sound that screamed in the silence. I told myself, hurry, hurry, every second brings us closer to daylight. My hands shook so badly I almost spilled the formula. I breathed deeply. Calm down. Calm down. My son needs you to be calm. I whispered to Minjun, here, drink quickly. Okay, quick. He started drinking. And then I heard it voices, faint but human. Footsteps. Patrol. 2 soldiers, 50 meters to my right, walking toward us. I pressed myself to the ground, holding Minjun firmly. My hand covered his head. The bottle was still in his mouth. I repeated in my mind, don't move. Don't move. Don't move. If I thought hard enough, I felt almost invisible. My heart was pounding so hard I felt it in my throat, ears, fingertips. They'd hear it. One said, did you hear that? The other answered, what? A sound? Plastic? Metal maybe? Probably an animal. An animal in a minefield? Stupid. They stopped 20 meters away, boots crunching on frozen grass. Minjun finished drinking but kept sucking on the empty bottle. That cursed sound. I had to quiet it. What could I do? Take the bottle away, and he'd cry, leave it, and the noise would continue. I did the only thing I could. I gently covered his mouth with my hand, leaving just enough space to breathe through his nose. The sound was reduced. Minjun looked up at me with his big, dark eyes. I swear, in that moment, he understood we had to stay silent. He didn't cry. The soldiers resumed walking. Their voices faded 40 meters, 60, 100. I exhaled. I hadn't realized I'd been holding my breath. My lungs burned. It was 2:17 a.m. I had lost 25 minutes. The fence electricity would go off in less than 3 minutes. I had to move fast. I stood and ran. There was no more time to be careful, only speed mattered. The fence was visible now, gleaming in the moonlight, 30 meters away. But there was a problem. It was 2:19 a.m. 1 minute before the power cut. I arrived gasping, legs and chest burning. I couldn't stop. The fence was taller than I remembered, maybe 3.5 meters, tightly coiled in a spiral, with spikes every 10 centimeters. It buzzed, low and electric, brushing the skin even from close by. I pulled out my wire cutters. I knew which line to cut. I had studied this system for 3 years. 3 support wires, the outer 2 electrified, the middle structural. Cut the middle cable first, and the electrified wires would drop silently. At 2:20 a.m., the buzzing stopped. I had 15 minutes. I started cutting. The metal was thick. The cutters gnawed slowly. After 5-10 attempts, it bent a millimeter at a time. Then Minjun moved suddenly. I don't know what startled him, maybe the metal sound, maybe the cold. His body twisted. My instinct kicked in. I leaned back to balance his weight. I lost my footing. 1 step back. My left leg caught on the lower fence. I screamed inside my head, no, 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 no. I felt the barbed wire tear through my pants and then through my skin. Hot, like a searing knife, slicing from my thigh down to my knee. I gritted my teeth. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. Only a suppressed groan escaped. I looked down. My pants were shredded, dark and wet. I couldn't see the color in the darkness, but I knew it was blood. I touched the wound with my fingers. Deep. Very deep. Nausea hit me. My vision blurred. I staggered. My hand reached for the fence, but I stopped just before touching it. Think. Focus. Calm down. I briefly considered going back. The wound was severe. I was bleeding heavily, without proper bandages. And I still had 3 kilometers to go. Then I looked at Minjun sleeping on my chest, completely unaware of the danger around him. I couldn't go back. It was 2:24 a.m., next to the fence, 6 minutes before the electricity would turn back on. I tore my underwear with my teeth and made a strip, wrapping it tightly around my thigh as best I could. Pain shot across me like stars exploding. But the pressure slowed the bleeding. I returned to the cable. I finished cutting. The wire snapped. The electrified lines on both sides slackened. I created a gap just enough to squeeze through. At 2:28 a.m., I pushed the backpack through first, then crawled after it, stomach to the ground. My wound scraped along the soil, sand and small rocks grinding into my flesh. I silently repeated, "Don't scream. Don't scream. Don't scream." I made it through. 2:30 a.m. The other side of the fence. But something was wrong. I looked at my leg. The makeshift bandage from my shirt was completely soaked dark red, almost black. I was losing too much blood. And another realization hit me. Drops were falling from my torn pants, leaving a trail of blood. If the patrol passed here in the next few hours, they would track me. At 2:35 a.m., I assessed the situation. I'd crossed 1 kilometer out of 4. I had to reach the other side by 6 a. Meh. 3 hours and 25 minutes left. But with bleeding legs that barely responded, I would need at least 5 hours. That meant I wouldn't make it before sunrise. I would still be in the middle of the DMZ, an easy target. 2 choices: run and die from blood loss, or move slowly and get caught at dawn. I chose a third option: find shelter at sunrise and wait. Spend 24 hours in the DMZ with my baby and my wound. I didn't know it then, but those 24 hours would be the longest of my life. By 3:15 a.m., I had moved another 500 meters, limping and dragging my left leg. Every step was fire racing through my nerves. The sky was changing from black to deep navy. About 45 minutes until dawn. I needed cover. Now, I scanned the terrain with my flashlight rocks, low shrubs. Nothing large enough. Then I saw it. An old artillery bunker, probably from the Korean War, almost entirely covered by earth and vegetation. Only a small entrance about 60 centimeters wide, perfect. I was 30 meters from the bunker when I heard a sound that froze my blood. A helicopter. Not too close, but closing fast. No time for caution. I ran, or more accurately, fell toward the entrance. The bunker was smaller than I expected, just enough for my shoulders. I pushed the backpack inside first, then held Minjun tightly to my chest and slid in head first. My shoulders got stuck. My chest followed. Too big. I pushed harder. It wouldn't budge. The helicopter noise grew closer. I pushed harder, feeling my shoulders scrape against the rock. Something gave way. My shoulders cleared, and then my torso and legs slipped in. I landed on something soft and damp. In the total darkness, I couldn't see what it was. I flicked on the flashlight for a second. The bunker was tiny, roughly 2 meters by 2 meters. Low ceiling, couldn't stand. The floor was covered with rotting straw and something else, something that smelled of death. Probably a long-dead animal. I turned off the light. I couldn't risk being seen. The helicopter passed right above the bunker. The walls vibrated. Dust fell from the ceiling onto my face. Minjun woke, moving slightly. I held him close to my chest and whispered, barely audible, "It's okay. It's okay." The sound faded into the distance. I checked the time, 3:47 a.m. Less than 15 minutes until sunrise. My bandage was soaked through. I had to replace it. I tore another piece of shirt and wrapped it around the wound. The pain nearly made me pass out. I bit my arm to stifle a scream. Salty, bitter taste of blood filled my mouth. I checked our supplies, 2 formula packets left, half a bottle of water, 4 diapers. Enough to survive 14 hours. I calculated in my head Minja needed feeding every 3-4 hours. That meant at least 3 more times before it got light. But only 2 packets remained. That meant at some point he would get hungry and cry. And I would be powerless. At 6:30 a.m., Minjun woke up completely. His stomach was growling. I could feel it in the way he twisted his body, how his mouth searched for something. I gave him the first formula packet, mixing it with the little water I had left, almost half the remaining water, just to make enough liquid for the bottle. He drank, fast and desperate. Finished in 3 minutes. One packet left. Outside, I heard movement voices, distant but clear. Patrol. They were looking. I pressed my ear against the bunker wall. The voices got closer. What did you find? One soldier asked. Blood traces. Ends near the fence. Doesn't continue. Dead? Gone? Hiding? Hiding? Where? There's nothing here. The footsteps were closer, maybe 10 meters, maybe 5. I gently covered Minjun's mouth with my hand. Not because he was making noise, but just in case. I grabbed my military knife with the other hand, holding it tight. If they found me, well, I wouldn't let them take Minjun without a fight. One soldier said, "What's that?" My heart stopped. What? That hill covered in vegetation? Just an old bunker. From the war, we should check it out. Silence. The footsteps grew louder, crunching on dry leaves above. I glanced at Minjun in the darkness. His big eyes looked at me as if he understood this could be our last moment. The radio crackled. Report immediately to West 2 kilometers, Delta 7 coordinates. Fresh traces found. Copy, moving. The footsteps faded. I exhaled. I hadn't realized I'd been holding my breath. My lungs burned. My head spun. I dropped the knife metal clanging on the floor. An explosive sound in the silence. Frozen. Waited. Did anyone hear? Nothing. Silence. We were safe. By 11 a.m., the sun was high. The bunker became an oven. The temperature rose 10, 15, 20 degrees. No ventilation, no fresh air, just hot, humid, stagnant air. Sweat poured. Minjun was soaked too. At 11:30 a.m., I touched his forehead. Hot. Too hot. Fever. I remembered what the doctor said when he was a newborn. High fever, especially under 1 year, is an emergency. Brain damage possible. But here, in the DMZ, no doctor, no hospital. Just me. I stripped Minjun down to his diaper, wet my hands with the remaining water, and rubbed his forehead, chest, arms, trying to cool him. The water evaporated almost instantly in the heat. I did something I swore I'd never do, used my own saliva. Spat into my hand, rubbed it on his skin. It was all I had. My vision blurred. I realized I was crying. Quiet tears ran down my face, mixing with sweat and saliva on Minjun's chest. Whispered, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. All my fault." Minjun looked at me, fevered, sweating, suffering, and yet those eyes seemed to say, "Dad, I trust you." That trust weighed heavier than anything I had ever carried. By 12:30 p.m., his fever began to drop. Maybe the water and saliva helped, or maybe it was luck or something greater than me. It didn't matter. It was going down. By 3 p.m., Minjun began to stir again. Hunger. Only one formula packet left. Feeding him now meant nothing for the night. And I needed at least 7 more hours to move. Feed now and lose resources, or wait and endure his cries? I chose to wait. I tried to distract him, whispering stories about his mother, how we met, how she laughed, how she sang. I sang a lullaby my mother used to sing in North Korea, almost inaudibly. It worked for a little while. Minjun calmed down. He watched me as if my voice alone was enough, but only for 30 minutes. At 3:45 p.m., he began to cry again, softly at first, then louder, panicked. Too loud, and the patrol could hear. I gave him the last formula packet. There was no water left, so I mixed in my saliva. Kept spitting into the bottle until it was liquid enough. Horrible taste, salty and bitter, but he drank no other choice. From 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., 4 hours. Nothing happened. Only silence, darkness, and pain. My leg throbbed. Infection spreading. Hot, pulsating. Minjun finally slept exhausted from heat and hunger. I just waited. During those hours, I thought about Soyeon. She would have handled this better than me. I thought about my childhood, my mother. I never told her I loved her. If I died here, if we just vanished, who would find us? Who would remember us? I thought of the South, of freedom. Would it be worth it? By 7:30 p.m., the sun began to set. Temperature dropped. Finally, I knew in 30 minutes it would be dark enough to move. Checked my leg. Worsened wound, swollen, red, hot to touch. Clearly infected. No choice. Had to move. Minjin was asleep, breathing normally, fever down. Supplies? Nothing, no food, no water, no clean bandages. Knife ready. My resolve confirmed. 14 hours in that bunker felt like 14 days. But we survived. Only one thing left, the most dangerous part. The last 2.5 kilometers. Injured, resourceless, straight through the most heavily monitored towers of the DMZ. Full darkness at Ape. Mem. Time. I crawled to the bunker entrance, peered out, eyes adjusted to darkness. Nothing. Silence. I stepped out. Every muscle screamed. My leg barely responded, but it didn't matter. Only 2.5 kilometers between us and freedom. What I didn't know this final stretch would be the most terrifying. Every defense concentrated here. Snipers, towers, most defectors died just meters from freedom. 8:05 p.m., 14 hours later, first step out of the bunker. Leg barely holding me, left leg on fire. Every step dimmed my vision. Ahead, lights. Patrol towers. Yellow dots against black sky. Like stars, beautiful and deadly. 2 kilometer. Between me and them, me and freedom. Clock said 10 hours until dawn. Normally, 2.5 kilometers, 30 minutes. With broken leg, hostile terrain, avoiding patrols, 4 to 5 hours. Enough time, maybe, but I hadn't considered this was the final zone. Maximum surveillance. Towers 500 meters apart, lights sweeping every 45 seconds. Snipers with night vision. This wasn't crossing, it was death. Started moving. Crawling, sometimes on knees, from rock to rock, mound to mound. Minjun pressed tightly to my chest, jacket covering him, nose exposed. If searchlights hit us, maybe we'd look like one person. I observed the patterns. Tower 1 swept left to right, 20-25 seconds pause. Tower 2, right to left, 20-25 seconds pause. Tower 3, circular, 30-15 seconds pause. 15-second gaps my path. Waited, counted. Tower 1, sweep, pause. Tower 2, sweep, pause. Now, I ran. Limping. 30 meters. Ground. 15 seconds. Tower 3, sweep over my head. Light so bright I could see even with eyes closed. Passed. For 1 hour. Repeated wait, count, run, hide. 30 meters, 50 meters, 40 meters, 60 meters. Every sprint torture. My legs screamed. My body screamed. But my mind screamed louder. Keep going, keep going, keep going. By 9:15 p.m. midway, I heard something else. Not helicopter, not searchlight. Footsteps on the ground. Close. Frozen. Didn't move. Not even breathe. There were 2 soldiers walking about 20 meters to my left. I could hear their conversation. Still alive? One asked. The deserter from Zone 347? No, probably bled out. Or stepped on a mine? We found blood around here 6 hours ago. Yeah, 6 hours ago. If he didn't die, he's probably dying somewhere by now. They passed. Only 15 meters from me, too close. I could smell the cigarette on their uniforms. They didn't see me. I moved slower, more cautiously. Reached the end of the first stretch. 1.5 kilometers to go. Now entering the worst zone towers closer together. Overlapping searchlights. No gaps in the darkness. At 9:30 p.m. I stopped. Observed. The 3 towers' searchlights overlapped perfectly. No shadows, no way through. Waited 10, 20, 30 minutes. Nothing changed. Perfect pattern. No gaps. Then I remembered something from training. Searchlights have blind spots directly beneath each tower, roughly 10-meter wide cone of shadow. If I could reach the tower bases, I could use the shadows to advance. But that meant running straight at the towers. At the snipers. The most dangerous place. Crazy. My only option. At 10:45 p.m., I chose Tower 2 closer. 200 meters. Waited for the light to sweep past me to the right. Then ran. I don't know how I managed it. Where I got the energy. Adrenaline, maybe. Pure desperation. Survival instinct stronger than pain. I ran. Left leg barely touching the ground, practically hopping on one leg. Minjun bounced against my chest. Only the tower in sight. 50 meters, 100, 150. A voice shouted, "Stop." Identify yourself. A soldier in the tower had seen me. I didn't stop. Couldn't. Stop, and they'd shoot. I ran. Last warning. Stop or we fire. The first gunshot sharp, tearing through the night. Dirt exploded 2 meters to my right. Second shot to the left, 1 meter away. Third bullet whizzed past my ear. So close I felt the air move. My left ear burned. Touched it, blood. A bullet grazed my ear. Still alive. 20 meters, 10-5, threw myself to the ground. Rolled into the tower's shadow. Shots ceased. I was right under them. They couldn't aim low enough to hit directly beneath. Safe for now. Voices above panic, confusion. Where is he? Don't know. Gone. Right under us. Call backup. Response team en route. ETA 5 minutes. 5 minutes before the ground troops arrived. Ahead, I saw the white line marking the tower base 1 kilometer away. Fully illuminated. No shadows, no buildings. No time to wait, no time to plan. Had to run. Straight line. In full light. Snipers on both sides. North deserter. South unknown. Minjin slept, unaware of the gunfire, the danger, the death around us. I thought if I die, I'll die running toward freedom, not hiding in darkness. 11 p.m. I stood. Left the shadows. Instantly, all searchlights found me. Like being on stage, blinding light from all directions. I ran. Every ounce of energy. My leg wasn't a leg anymore, just a chunk of dragging flesh. But I ran. Minjin woke noise, lights, movement. Started crying, but his cries vanished amidst the chaos, the gunfire. Behind me, machine guns from North Korean towers. Ground exploded around me, dust, stones, deadly hail. Ahead, 2 towers everywhere. Stop. Identify yourself. I ran, shouting, Defector! Defector! My voice lost in the noise. Flashes everywhere. No, no, no. We're on the same side. But they didn't know. To them, I was just an unidentified target running toward their perimeter. 500 meters left. Saw the white line clear, real. Too close. My body went on autopilot. No pain, no fear, only emptiness. A void filled with pure resolve. 400 meters. Something hit my right shoulder, not a bullet. Shrapnel from a gunshot explosion. Skimmed my skin. Kept running. 300 meters. Minjin screamed a pure cry of terror I'd never heard. Whispered, almost there. Almost there, son. Almost there. 200 meters. Something struck my backpack. Hard. Like a hammer. Almost fell. Bullet penetrated the bag, inches from Minjin's head. Something inside me broke not panic, not fear. Rage. Screamed. Primitive, raw. Ran faster. 100 meters to the line. North Korean gunfire intensified. They knew I was escaping. Now or never. 50 meters. South Korean gunfire stopped. Maybe they realized. Maybe they heard my Korean shouts. Maybe saw Minjun. 25 meters. Couldn't run anymore. Pulled forward by sheer will. Every step pure determination. 10 meters. 5 meters. 3 meters. 1 meter. At 11:14 p.m. I crossed the line. My feet touched South Korean soil. The moment my legs gave out, they simply stopped working. I fell, face first to the ground. Minjin was clinging to my chest. I shielded him from the fall with my body. We lay on the ground. I couldn't move. Physically impossible. But I was conscious. I could hear soldiers running toward me. Many soldiers. Voices shouting code 3, code 3. Confirm the defector. Check for weapons. Call a medic, he's bleeding. Guns were trained on me. I didn't move. Couldn't, even if I wanted to. Then I heard, wait, there's a baby. Suddenly, silence. Someone said, a baby? Hold the baby. A soldier knelt beside me, gently rolled me over. Minjin was on my chest, crying but alive. Fully alive. The soldier whispered, oh, thank God. My mouth moved, but no sound came out. My throat was dry, constricted. Finally, with every last ounce of energy, I whispered, please, please don't shoot. It's a baby. Tears ran down my face, not just tears, but sobs from a place I didn't even know existed. Please save the baby. The soldier lowered his gun. Others did the same. He looked me in the eyes and said words, I'll never forget. You're safe now. You're safe. Another soldier with a medic insignia rushed forward, gently took Min Jun from my arms. I tried to hold him, I had no strength left. The medic said, "It's okay. I'll check him." I watched helplessly as he examined Minjin, flashlight in hand, checking his eyes, his breathing, his pulse. Seconds that felt like hours. Finally, the medic turned to me and smiled. "He's breathing. He's healthy." Those two simple words, healthy. Something inside me released. The tension I'd held for 27 hours. The adrenaline that had kept my body moving. Everything released. My vision darkened at the edges. Voices in the distance, "He's fainting." Stabilize. Severe blood loss. But I didn't care anymore, because I heard one last thing before the darkness took me, Minjin's cry. Loud, insistent, perfectly alive. And I let go. The last thing I remember that night was a strange sensation. Not pain, not fear, but peace. We had crossed, survived, and for the first time in 27 hours, I closed my eyes without wondering if I would open them again. I opened my eyes to fluorescent light, bright, harsh. Blinked repeatedly. Didn't know where I was, what day it was. Didn't know if it was real or a dream. Tried to get up. My body protested, screaming through every muscle, every nerve. A gentle hand pressed me back down. A female voice said softly, "Slowly, you're still recovering." I turned my head. A nurse. White uniform, kind smile. I asked, my voice broken, "Where am I?" Gangneung Military Hospital. South Korea. South Korea? We made it. It's real. Minjun, I tried to sit up stronger this time. My son, where is he? The nurse calmed me. "It's okay. The baby is safe." "Where? Where is he?" She pointed, "Next room." "I'll bring him now." She left. Door closed. I waited. Maybe 30 seconds, but felt like 30 hours. My heart raced so fast. Thoughts spinning. What if the heat caused brain damage? What if the bullet through the backpack hit him? The door opened. Another woman, also in medical uniform, holding Minjin. I saw my son. Something inside me broke completely, not in a bad way. Like a dam bursting after holding back an ocean. Tears, not ordinary tears. A feeling that shook my entire body. I reached out. Trembling, weak, but open. She handed Minjin to my arms. Felt his weight, his warmth, the small, steady rhythm of his breath against my chest. Pulled him close. Held him tight, not too tight, but enough to know it was real. I buried my face in his hair. Smelled the baby soap clean, alive. I whispered over and over, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." Minjun looked at me, big dark eyes. And for the first time in days, he did something, smiled. Small, unconscious, pure. That smile destroyed me and healed me at the same time. The woman who brought him said softly, but clearly, "I'm Dr. Kim, gastroenterologist." "Is he okay?" I asked, voice breaking. She nodded yes. "Dehydrated but treated. Mild malnutrition but recovering. A miracle." I repeated the word, "Miracle, miracle." She continued, "And you too. Your leg infection was severe. One more day, you could have lost your leg." Minjun slept in my arms, peaceful, safe. I thought about everything we'd endured that night, the 27 hours, the landmines, the gunfire, the bunkers, the heat, the hunger, the fear. Every moment, every step, every tear, it had been worth it. 3 weeks later, we moved from the military hospital to a defector education center in Seoul. My leg had healed enough to walk, though limping. Minjun fully recovered, even gained weight. Nurses joked he was the cutest baby at the center. The first few days were intense. Interrogations. Intelligence agents wanted every detail of my life in the North Military Service, the DMZ, defensive facilities, patrol patterns. I told them everything, nothing to hide. An older interrogator asked seriously, "Don't you feel guilt for betraying your North Korean comrades?" Honestly, every day. Especially thinking of Jinho, my barracks mate. He saw me packing my bag, suspected nothing. But guilt and regret are different. I felt guilt, not regret. After interrogations, lessons how to live in South Korea, how to use a smartphone, ride the subway, open a bank account, find a job, things every South Korean learns growing up. But to me, it felt like learning to live on another planet. The first time I went out into Seoul, no words could capture the feeling. At Gangnam Station, massive LED screens, advertisements everywhere, thousands of people moving in all directions. Noise, colors, lights. In the north, streets at night were dark, quiet, empty. Here, it felt like daylight never ended. I held Minjin in my arms. He looked around with wide eyes, amazed. I thought, this is his world now. The world he will grow up in. A world of endless lights. Abundant food. A world where he can become whoever he wants. Someone once asked me, what was the cost of freedom? Days thinking. Finally understood freedom cost everything: my hometown, my comrades, my identity, all I knew. But what I gained was choice, the right to choose. People born here may not realize how precious that is, waking up and choosing what to eat, where to go, what to wear, who to love. Small freedoms, unimaginable luxuries in the north. Another question, how did you survive? Honestly, I don't know. Sometimes I wake at night thinking about those 27 hours. Was it really me? Did I really do it? I see the scars on my legs. I know it was real. But the truth, I didn't fight to survive. I fought to save Minjin. That's the difference. Fighting for yourself, you can give up. Fighting for another, especially your child, suddenly the impossible becomes possible. The last, most important question, what would you say to other North Korean defectors? I took a deep breath, thought carefully. Yes, if you're in North Korea, seeing this, considering escape, it won't be easy. My story proves that. I nearly died, many times, but it's possible, and it's worth it. You're not alone. Here in South Korea, people want to help you. Listen to your story. Until you know freedom, you must dare to fear it. It's 2025 now, 4 years since that night. I sit on a park bench in Mapo, Seoul. Saturday afternoon, sun bright, warm but not hot. In front of me, Minjun plays in the playground. 4 years old now, running, laughing, shouting with other kids. His Korean still imperfect, accent showing. Other kids sometimes laugh. He doesn't care. He plays on. Watching him, I think of that night, those 27 hours. Sometimes still have nightmares, waking in sweat, seeing searchlights, hearing gunfire. My leg aches when it rains, limps when tired. But then I see Minjun running freely, laughing without fear, choosing what to do, who to play with. And every scar, every nightmare, every painful moment, it was worth it. People sometimes ask, would you do it again? My answer is always the same, 1,000 times, 10,000 times. Minjun runs to me. Daddy, Daddy, shows me a chalk drawing on the ground, a rainbow, all colors mixed. Beautiful. I lift him up. Very beautiful. He looks at me with those same big eyes, the ones that saw me in the bunker, in the mine, in the arms of South Korean soldiers, and asks, Daddy, are you happy? I smile, a real smile. Deep. Yes, very happy, because for the first time in my life, that word truly means something.